What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Sweezy channel. I appreciate you tuning in. I know it's been a minute, but we are about 21, 22-ish games into the NBA's regular season, so I figured it's about that time where I hit you with a quarter season recap. Let's get into the video. At the time of this recording, the Celtics are actually sitting at 18-5, while being undefeated at home, being 12-0. They sit at 6-5 on the road, and I don't think that's a massive issue, but it is something that they need to tighten up. If you want to have a deep run in the playoffs, even get to the finals and win the title, you're going to have better than a couple games above 500 on the road. The Celtics are led by all-star Jason Tatum, who's having another absolutely stellar season. Now, he is a little bit under where I had him projected. He's scoring 27 points a night with 9 rebounds. I considered he would have a little bit less rebounds, maybe closer to 7.5, 8. But I did have him scoring above that 30-point per game mark, where he's currently sitting at 27. Now, is that a huge problem? No, not at all. Considering the acquisitions of Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis have been absolutely huge, and Derek White has also taken a massive step forward in terms of his production. Now, the player that I'm less than pleased with in Boston is Jaylen Brown. I actually had Jaylen Brown making third team. I really thought he would prove to everybody that that massive contract he received wasn't a complete and utter fluke, and I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that it was. Not to say he's not playing well, he just isn't playing exactly how he needs to play. Granted, it's not really showing considering the Celtics are one of the best teams overall anyway. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, maybe even the best, and they're surrounded by a ton of shooters. They just play a great style of basketball. But in order for the Celtics to continue the absolute tear that they've been on, they do need to clean up some things. I do think they tend to play down to their competition, hence losing to Orlando and losing to the Pacers in the play-in after having a lead. Granted, Halliburton was tearing everybody up in the play-in. These are just some mistakes I think Boston does need to clean up before they go into the playoffs and have a deep run at the finals. All right, up next we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who I don't like the Grizzlies, so it's nice to see them fail, but I didn't think they'd be this bad, because they're not. Even with Ja Morant serving a 25-game suspension, there is no reason they should be this bad, at least in terms of their record. In the last 2 seasons without Ja Morant, they've actually been a great team record-wise. Granted, at certain points they had Brandon Clark and they had Steven Adams, which both of them are out with an Achilles and a PCL respectively, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that the rest of the team isn't playing well, outside of maybe Desmond Bane. But still, it's not as though they're not a great team, so I'm surprised that a majority of their games end up looking like this.
And that'll do it. Denver gets the win tonight, 108 total. And Drew, they pick up their first victory of the season. And doing it in front of the home faithful. The Wizards win.
Warren, not only will they snap a couple of losing streaks to the Memphis Grizzlies, they'll extend their home court winning streak as well tonight.
A rally, but the Grizzlies fall short. 127 to 120.
Now, do I expect this to be the same result once Ja Morant returns? No, I do not. Do I think the return of Ja Morant is going to make so much of a difference that all of a sudden the Grizzlies become a deep playoff team? No, I don't. But I do see them still being at least a play-in team and not the 14 seed in the Western Conference. So once Ja returns, expect them to look better. But as of right now, they have looked absolutely terrible. Going on to something I did not expect was going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. Apparently, they're the giant slayers this year in the NBA. Every NBA season has one. It's no surprise. I just personally didn't expect it to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. But Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns have other plans. They've already beaten the Nuggets, which was the team that won the finals last year. They've beaten the Heat, which were the runner-up in last year's finals. They've beaten the Celtics, who I think most consider the title favorite. They've beaten Philly, who I think is a top 5 to 7 team. They beat the Warriors, who at the time of writing this video, I thought would have been much better and have been a contender for the finals. And they beat them twice, back-to-back. And they've also beat the Thunder, one of the best young teams, if not the best young team in the entire league, with SGA and Chet. The Timberwolves are led by Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, 2 of the better young players in the league. Not that Cat's super young, but I still wouldn't consider him old. Edwards averaging 24 points per game, Cat averaging 22, and they get a lot of contributions from players like Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They have 5 players averaging double figures. McDaniels at 9.8, so you can almost consider that 6 players at double figures. The Timberwolves have been, I think, the best defensive team in the entire NBA. At the time, they've held opponents to the lowest 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, and points per game in general. I think the issue with the Timberwolves moving forward will be the fact that I do think this is kind of unprecedented. I don't think that they have the star power or really the assets to beat high-end teams, but as of right now, they really look like it. The one thing that they are proving wrong to a lot of the league, though, is that move to get Rudy Gobert. I know a lot of people questioned that and thought they gave up too many assets initially, and I think people were incredibly wrong, myself included. Really didn't think that the play between Cat and Rudy Gobert would be beneficial to them at all, and I've been completely wrong considering Rudy's impact on the defensive end has been great. Karl Anthony's ability to stretch the floor has been spectacular, which is not clogging the area for Rudy Gobert to work down low for dump-off passes and lobs. Do I think that the Timberwolves will make a deep playoff run and compete for a title? No, I don't. However, this is a team that's going to make a lot of noise in the playoffs, and they could probably upset a team or two if, they fall in the seeding to like 4 or 5, because they're currently 2. But if they do, I do think that they're going to push teams that should handle them relatively easily to a really tough 6 or 7 game series, or even cause a couple upsets, stir up the playoffs a little bit. So be on the lookout for Minnesota. Even though they probably won't take the whole thing home, they will cause your favorite team some pain. Speaking of teams that have come out of nowhere to be great, is the Orlando Magic. This team is ridiculous. I genuinely, yes, they have a bunch of young talent. Yes, they're all very skilled. And yes, they just needed time to develop. But I don't think anybody genuinely saw them sitting at 3rd in the East at 16-7 and beating teams like Boston, Milwaukee, and Denver, which I think some people would consider the 3 best teams in the NBA. Now, while I don't pay a ton of attention to Orlando, at least not as much as I apparently should, I do think that they have a great model on how they build their team. They're really lanky. They got a lot of 6'7" to 6'9" guys that can shoot, handle the rock, defend, and rebound. They're kind of playing like that 2017-18 on Raptors method, where it's just how many lanky guys can we put on the floor until we disrupt your entire flow on offense, and we have a bunch of guys that can stretch the floor and play inside. Similar to Minnesota, do I think that this recipe is going to have, a lasting impact come playoff time? No. Do I think they'll be a playoff team? Yeah, I think they'll probably slip to the play-in more likely than not. But similar to Minnesota, say they get that 7-8 seed, I do think that they could put Milwaukee or Boston, who I do think will be the 1 and 2 seed, to 6 games. Similar to Minnesota, they will cause your favorite team turmoil if you do not watch out for them. Moving on from overachieving teams like the Magic, why don't we look at the Warriors, because they have been god-awful and have underachieved this entire season. I don't know if they genuinely forgot how to close games, but they must have, considering last year the biggest issue with this team was that they couldn't win on the road. Now, this year, they start the season 5-1 on the road in their first 6 games. At the time of this recording, the Warriors are 4-6 at home and 5-5 on the road. They had a 6-game losing streak, 5 of them on the road in a row. And the losing streaks aren't even the problem. It's the fact that they literally keep blowing leads. I've actually never seen someone choke this many halftime double-digit leads. They blew a 22-point to the Clippers, a 24-point to the Kings. You know what? Let's just roll the tape.
7, drop back, rimmed it out, rebound Westbrook. Clippers don't take time. George, step back 3, got it! LA's first lead of the afternoon. Curry at 2, Draymond to win the game. Here, Wiggins with 5 fouls. Monk drives on him, Monk hangs, and he scores! What a basket! Malik Monk gives the kick.
I just don't get it, considering both of those games were 20-plus point leads. And since the time of this recording, they've done it again. They may have won some of their games, but they continue to blow double-digit leads. And I'm not really sure where it's coming from, but I'll tell you right now, if they can't clean this up by the time we get late in the season, there is no chance this team has potential to go far. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the I told you so game in basketball because there's so much that could happen. But because this video has sections where I'm right and sections where I'm wrong, I'm absolutely going to tell you where I was right. And the first place where I was right was with Tyrese Halliburton. I didn't know he would be this good, but I knew he would be a star. But to average 26 and 12, 13 assists is Yeah, I don't think anyone saw this coming. So if you did, and you're at this part of the video, just tell yourself you were lying, because there's no shot you knew. Tyrese is currently on pace to have another 50-40-90 season, which is just 50% shooting from the field, 40% shooting from three, and 90% from the free throw line. And at the time of this recording, he was averaging 32 and 13 over his last 4 games, and you all watched him in the in-season tournament beat the 2 best teams in the league, arguably being the Celtics and the Bucks. And I'm not gonna say that he's a top 5 player or that he's an MVP candidate, even though his numbers say so. But I do think he's something to look forward to moving on in this season, where I actually do think numbers-wise he'll crack that top 5, but I know narrative-driven he won't. So just be on the lookout for Tyrese moving forward. Onto a player that I know for a fact I did not expect to be this good is Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey, granted last year, showed a lot of flashes of brilliance with James Harden on the floor, without James Harden on the floor. But with the absence of James Harden and all the drama surrounding the 76ers, I really didn't think Maxey would do what he's currently doing. He's currently averaging 27 points per game, cracking top 11 in scoring, and he's technically a better scorer this season than Damian Lillard, Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, and other really solid players in the league this year. And something that's really surprised me that I think has really benefited the 76ers has been his playmaking. Harden almost fit Embiid perfectly due to the fact that they could just run pick and rolls the entire time, and Maxey never really showed he'd be great at that, and that's honestly a part of Embiid's game. It is probably his most prominent, but Maxey stepped in and has done a fantastic job filling in that role. There was so much drama surrounding James Harden regarding the trade, and so much drama around Embiid regarding his faulty MVP. So Maxey is really, he is a bona fide second star for this team, and the 76ers look like they could really contend for a title. And it's honestly surprising because of how young Maxey is and how much development he still has to go. But looking at the Sixers right now and looking at Maxey's performance, this team has the capabilities to have a deep playoff run, so don't be surprised if they do. Now, this part of the video is where I need to make an apology. My apology is directed to Kevin Durant. And no, it's not because I've been hating on you because you left the Warriors. No, I appreciate the fact you brought us 2 rings. I need to apologize to Kevin Durant because 1, I left you off the All-NBA predictions video. 1, because I didn't think you'd be healthy enough. And 2, because I actually thought Booker would outperform you. Man, was I wrong. Durant has been the most vital part of this Suns organization and, the operation they're attempting to run moving forward. He's averaging 31 points per game on over 50% from 2 and 50% from 3, which is absolutely crazy. And along with the fact that Bradley Beal has missed a huge chunk of time and will probably continue to do so, only adds to the fact that Kevin Durant is carrying this Phoenix Suns team. What's crazy to me is that KD right now is one of 3 dudes to perform at this level with being this age. The other 2 being Curry and LeBron, who I genuinely believe were more reliable than he was, and I was wrong. Not that any one of them is more reliable than the other, but the fact that all of them at the age they are performing like arguably 3 of the top 6-7 players in the entire NBA. So for that reason, I needed to formally apologize to Kevin Durant in this video. Alright, if you made it to this point in the video, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, thank you for staying, I hope you enjoyed. But unfortunately, it's about that time to come to an end. This is my quarter season wrap up. I initially had a section to cover the rookies and the rookie showdown, but I figured that could be its own video. So if you want to see that in its own video, leave a comment below, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, do whatever you got to do. But anyway, it's been your boy Sweezy. I really appreciate having you. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next video. I'm out.